My wife said I need space, took a month trip to Europe, and left me with our 1-year-old daughter alone at home. When she came back, a shocking surprise waited for her. I never thought 3 suitcases could feel like a wrecking ball. But the moment my wife stood in our doorway, telling me she needed to find herself in South America, my entire life as I knew it crumbled. The air in our small apartment went instantly cold, even as the summer sun streamed through the window. All that was left was the echo of her words and the soft gurgle of our 1-year-old, Lily, from the next room. My name is Ethan, I'm 32, I work in IT, and until that moment, I genuinely believed Olivia and I had a normal marriage. We'd been together 6 years, married 3, and our daughter, Lily, had just celebrated her first birthday. Then Olivia dropped the bombshell, her self-care trip. 2 months she'd been planning it with her old college friends, the ones who still lived like they were 23, no kids, no responsibilities. The plan? A full month, bouncing between Buenos Aires, Rio, Cartagena, and Cusco. A whole South American adventure, like some gap year she never got to take. I honestly thought she was joking. I even laughed. I mean, who leaves their 1-year-old for a month to go party on another continent? But she didn't laugh back. Her face was this strange mix of defiance and absolute exhaustion. She said, "I've lost myself, Ethan. I'm not just a mom. I'm a person, and I need to remember who that person is." I tried to be understanding. I suggested maybe we could plan a long weekend for her instead. But she cut me off, sharp. Said a weekend wouldn't be enough. She needed real distance, real time. And, as her husband, I should be able to handle it. She'd apparently been reading articles about maternal burnout, quoting therapists, and name-dropping Oprah. The whole time, though, all I could think was, this isn't about burnout. This is about wanting to pretend our daughter doesn't exist. I asked how she could leave Lily for so long, and she got defensive. Said Lily would be fine, babies are resilient. I was being dramatic. Every single time I brought it up, she twisted it back to me not supporting her mental health. The weeks leading up to her departure were awful. She was glued to her phone, texting friends about hotels and restaurants. I noticed little things, too. She started pulling away from Lily, letting her cry longer, handing her off to me the second she got fussy. Every time Lily needed something, Olivia would let out this exaggerated sigh, like it was a huge inconvenience. Everything was about the trip, about her, about this rediscovered version of herself. She'd stay up late poring over travel blogs while I handled the entire bedtime routine alone. When I'd finally come out to the living room, Olivia would barely glance up from her screen. I tried to talk logistics. What if Lily gets sick? What if I have a work crisis? She'd just wave me off, saying I worried too much. The night before she left, I asked one last time if she was absolutely sure. She looked at me, frustrated, and said, "Ethan, I need this or I'm going to lose my mind." Lying in bed that night, listening to her pack, a cold thought settled in my gut. This doesn't feel like a vacation. This feels like an escape. The morning she left, I took the day off to drive her to the airport. Lily was in her car seat in the back, fussy the whole way, battling a cold she'd had all week. Olivia just stared out the window with her headphones on, like we weren't even there. I tried making small talk, asked if she had her passport. She'd just nod or give one-word answers. The tension in that car was suffocating. Every time Lily whimpered, I'd glance at Olivia, but she never reacted. When we pulled up to departures, I helped her get her bags out. That's when Lily really started crying. That deep, panic cry babies make when they sense something is terribly wrong. I asked Olivia one more time if she was absolutely certain. Maybe cut the trip to 2 or 3 weeks? She snapped, "Ethan, I need this or I'm going to lose my mind." There was something in her voice that told me the conversation was over. I didn't say anything after that. Just stood there holding a screaming Lily. Olivia leaned in to kiss Lily's forehead and said, "Mommy will be back soon, sweetie." But when Lily reached for her with both arms, Olivia just pulled back. She told me she'd text when she landed, grabbed her suitcase, and walked into the terminal without a single glance back. I stood there watching her disappear through the automatic doors while Lily sobbed into my shoulder. I sat in the driver's seat for 5 minutes, listening to my daughter scream, trying to process what had just happened. When did needing space turn into needing to be on another continent away from your own child? When I finally pulled into our apartment complex, I realized I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never been alone with Lily for more than a few hours, and now I was staring down 30 days. The first days were brutal. Lily cried every night around 7 p.m., that's when Olivia used to put her to bed. I was trying to work from home while taking care of a baby who just wanted her mom and didn't understand why she wasn't there. I'd get maybe 3 hours of broken sleep, then wake at 6 a.m. for diapers and breakfast and emails while Lily pulled on my leg or threw food on the floor. Meanwhile, Olivia was posting photos of cafes in Buenos Aires and cocktails in Rio. She texted every few days with, "Hope you guys are doing okay," followed by a heart emoji. Super casual, like checking on a houseplant. When I'd tell her Lily had been up all night with a fever, or I'd had to leave a work meeting for a diaper blowout, she'd respond 6 or 7 hours later with, "Poor baby, glad you're handling it." Like I'd just reported a minor inconvenience. I wasn't asking her to come home or even feel guilty. I was just updating her about her daughter, and getting responses that felt like they were meant for someone else's kid. By the second week, I'd stopped expecting her to ask how we were doing because she just didn't. I'd look at my daughter, this tiny person who didn't understand where her mom went, and I'd think about Olivia in some Cartagena Airbnb, drinking wine with her college friends. Something inside me fundamentally shifted. I wasn't angry yet. I was something colder, clearer. I realized Olivia wasn't on a trip. She was living like she didn't have a child. Someone had to live like Lily existed. Someone had to be the parent who stayed. That someone was me. My neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, was the first person to notice something was seriously wrong. She'd been hearing Lily cry through the walls at odd hours. One morning, when I was taking out the trash at 6 a.m., looking like I hadn't slept in a week, she stopped me in the hallway and asked if everything was okay. I told her Olivia was traveling for work, which was easier than explaining the truth. She gave me that look older women give when they know you're drowning but are too polite to call you out. Then she offered to watch Lily for a few hours if I needed to catch up on sleep. I almost cried right there because I hadn't realized how desperately I needed help until someone offered it. That same week, Lily developed an ear infection. She kept pulling at her left ear and crying more than usual. When her temperature hit 102, I knew I had to take her to urgent care. I spent 4 hours in that waiting room with a screaming baby, trying to keep her calm while answering work emails because I had a client presentation the next day. The doctor saw us around 8 p.m., prescribed antibiotics, and told me to monitor her temperature. I texted Olivia to let her know, tried to keep it factual, and she responded the next morning with a sad face emoji and "poor baby. Glad you got her to a doctor." Like I'd taken Lily for a routine checkup instead of dealing with a medical emergency alone. That same day, Olivia posted a photo at a Cusco rooftop bar with a cocktail, captioned, "Living my best life," with heart and airplane emojis. I stared at my phone, thinking, how is this the same person who used to cry watching videos of Lily learning to clap? The contrast made me feel sick. My daughter was sick and miserable, and I was running on empty, and Olivia was acting like she was 23 again, with zero responsibilities. The financial stuff started bothering me around week 3. I logged into our joint checking account and saw charges from South America. Restaurants costing $200, hotels $300 to $400 a night, ATM withdrawals for hundreds of euros. She'd spent close to $7,000 in 3 weeks. Meanwhile, I was buying diapers, groceries, prescription medication, paying rent and utilities. I started taking screenshots of every transaction. Something in my gut told me I needed documentation. I saved them in a folder labeled Expenses 2024. I was running on autopilot. Wake at 6 a.m. when Lily cried. change her diaper, make breakfast, squeeze in work while she played with blocks or watched Bluey. Put her down for a nap and work frantically during that window. Lunch, more work, dinner, bath time, the bedtime routine that took an hour, then maybe 1 hour to myself before passing out from exhaustion. My boss had been understanding the first week, but by week 3, he was sending emails like, "Need to discuss your availability." One afternoon, on a video call with a client, Lily started screaming in the background. I had to mute myself and rock her while pretending to pay attention to the screen. After the call, my boss sent a message, "We need to talk." I felt my stomach drop. That's when Gary saved me. He was a senior consultant, an older guy, mid-50s, who'd overheard me scheduling a follow-up pediatrician appointment. He pulled me aside after a meeting and said, "You look like absolute hell, man. What's going on?" Something about the directness broke through my defenses. I gave him the abbreviated version: wife in South America for a month, baby at home with an ear infection, trying to keep my job and sanity. Gary nodded slowly, like he'd heard this before, then told me he'd been through something similar 20 years ago. His ex-wife left him with their 6-year-old son for 6 months to find herself in Florida. By the time she came back, he'd already filed for separation and primary custody. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "The court doesn't care about feelings, Ethan. It cares about facts. Who's feeding the kid? Who's taking her to the doctor? Who's actually showing up day after day?" Then he handed me a business card for a family lawyer named Sarah. I took the card, thanked him, but said I didn't think it would come to that. Gary shrugged and said, "Maybe not, but keep it just in case." I didn't call the lawyer right away, because part of me believed this was temporary, that Olivia would come home, see what she'd done, and feel terrible. But that belief was getting harder to hold on to, especially when I'd see her Instagram stories from Cusco showing her at clubs at 2 a.m., dancing and laughing. I started keeping a log around day 20. Nothing fancy, just a spiral notebook where I'd write everything that happened. What time Lily woke up, what she ate, doctor visits, how much money Olivia spent, what time she texted, and exactly what she said. I felt insane documenting my life as evidence for a trial that hadn't been scheduled yet. But Gary's words kept playing, facts, not feelings. Olivia called me exactly twice the entire month. Once from Buenos Aires during the first week, making a token effort. Once from Cusco near the end to tell me her flight time. Both conversations were awkward. She'd ask how Lily was doing. I'd give a one-sentence answer. Then she'd fill the silence talking about museums and restaurants and how good it felt to be free for a while. That word, free, stuck in my brain like a splinter. That's exactly how she saw her life with us, as something she needed to be free from. As a prison she'd temporarily escaped. During that second call, I asked if she'd thought about what happens when she gets back. She laughed uncomfortably and said, "Let's just take it one day at a time, Ethan." I finally called Sarah 3 days before Olivia was scheduled to fly home. I was up at 2 a.m. with Lily, who couldn't sleep, rocking her in the dark living room, and I realized I couldn't let this happen again. I couldn't let Olivia come home and act like nothing changed, and then maybe do this again in 6 months. I called the next morning, left a rambling message, and she called back within an hour. I told her everything, the month-long trip, the money, the lack of contact with Lily, me being sole caregiver for 30 days. Sarah listened without interrupting, then said, "Ethan, what you're describing, it's called parental abandonment. And in custody cases, that matters. So, I need to ask you directly, do you want full custody of your daughter?" I didn't hesitate. I just said yes. Sarah explained the process, filing for temporary custody, getting an emergency court order before Olivia even landed. We needed to move fast, maybe 48 hours to get everything filed and approved. I signed the paperwork that afternoon, hands shaking, and she told me everything would be submitted by end of business. She also said I should change the locks, that the custody order would legally allow it. I thought about how insane this was, locking my wife out of her own home. But then I thought about Lily crying at the airport, about Olivia prying her daughter's hands off her jacket, and I realized this was the safest thing I'd done in a month. Olivia landed at 9 p.m. on Sunday. I knew because she'd posted a photo from the airport, home sweet home. I'd had a locksmith come that morning. The custody order was active and enforceable. Lily was asleep in her crib, oblivious. I sat on the couch with the court documents in a manila folder and waited. Around 10:30, I heard footsteps in the hallway, stopping at our door. I heard her try her key, that confused rattle when the lock doesn't work, then a pause before she knocked. I opened the door. There she was, with her suitcase and carry-on. A huge smile on her face, like she'd come back from a spa weekend. I watched the smile die when she saw my expression. She looked confused and said, "Why doesn't my key work?" I handed her the manila folder and told her to read what was inside. She opened it right there in the hallway. I watched her face change as she read, confusion, turning to shock, to panic. She looked up with wide eyes and said, "What is this? What the hell is this, Ethan?" I told her calmly it was a temporary custody order, that I'd filed for sole custody while she was gone, that I'd been the only parent for 30 days, and I wasn't going to let that become permanent. She started shaking her head violently, saying I couldn't do this. That she'd been gone 1 month, and that didn't make her a bad mother. I didn't raise my voice. I just told her the facts. She'd left our 1-year-old for 30 days to party across South America, spent $7,000 on herself while I paid for diapers and medicine, barely checked in. She tried to push past me, and I stepped in front of her, told her the court order said she couldn't enter this residence, that she needed to contact her own lawyer. That's when she started crying, angry crying, her face going red. She said, "You can't keep me from my daughter." I said very quietly that I wasn't keeping her from Lily. The court was. Because the court cared about who actually showed up when it mattered. She pulled out her phone and said, "I'm calling the police." I told her to go ahead. She actually did it. Called 911 right there. I went back inside and closed the door. Listened to her talking to the dispatcher frantically. I checked on Lily, who was still sound asleep. The police officer showed up 20 minutes later. I heard Olivia outside talking to him desperately. When he knocked, I opened the door and showed him the custody order. He read through it carefully, asked a few questions, then went back out to talk to Olivia. I heard fragments. The officer explaining this was a civil matter. The order was legal and enforceable. She needed to get her own attorney. After 15 minutes, I heard footsteps going down the stairs, then silence. The next weeks turned into a blur of lawyers and court dates. Olivia hired her own attorney within 2 days. Filed an emergency motion to dismiss my custody order, claiming I'd acted in bad faith. Sarah destroyed that argument. She brought printed copies of Olivia's Instagram posts showing her partying in 4 countries, bank statements showing $7,000 in spending, text logs where Olivia took hours to respond about Lily being sick. The judge asked Olivia directly why she felt it was appropriate to leave a 1-year-old for an entire month. Olivia gave this long speech about maternal mental health and burnout and needing space to heal. The judge looked at her with complete disbelief and said, "Space is a weekend away, Mrs. Miller. Maybe even a week. It's not a month-long vacation in South America while your husband handles everything." The temporary custody order was extended for another 60 days. Olivia was given supervised visitation, 2 hours, twice a week, at a family center where a social worker would observe. I brought Lily to the first visit and wasn't prepared for how hard it would be. Not because I felt bad for Olivia, but because Lily didn't reach for her at all. She stayed in my arms, clinging to my shirt, watching her mom like a stranger. Olivia tried so hard. She brought new toys and books, sang Lily's favorite songs, but Lily wasn't interested. The moment Olivia tried to pick her up, Lily would cry and reach back for me. The social worker wrote that the child showed clear signs of attachment disruption and recommended continued primary placement with the father. By the third visit, Lily was warming up a little, but the moment she got tired, she'd immediately reach for me. Olivia started showing up exactly on time, asking detailed questions about Lily's routine. I could see she was genuinely trying now, but I also knew it was too late for trying to matter in the way she wanted. The court issued a final custody order after 3 months. Primary physical custody to me, with Olivia getting standard visitation every other weekend and 1 evening per week. She moved into a small 1-bedroom apartment across town and started therapy. I didn't feel victorious when the judge signed those papers. I just felt exhausted. Lily turned 2 about a month after everything was finalized. I threw her a small party at our apartment. Olivia came for exactly 1 hour during her scheduled visit time and brought a giant stuffed elephant. Lily looked at it for 5 seconds before going back to her wooden blocks. When it was time for Olivia to leave, she knelt down and hugged Lily tight and said, "Mommy loves you so much." Lily just said bye-bye cheerfully and ran back to her cake. I watched Olivia walk to her car from the window, saw her sit in the driver's seat for a minute with her hands on the wheel before starting the engine. I cleaned up after everyone left and put Lily to bed. And I thought about what Gary had told me, that the court doesn't care about feelings. It only cares about facts. Gary had been right. The courts care about facts, not feelings. But he'd missed the most crucial part: the facts aren't just evidence, they're the daily proof of who truly loves a child. Not who says it, not who claims they would sacrifice everything, but who actually shows up, day after day, through the exhaustion, through the hard times, choosing that child above all else. Olivia had chosen herself, her freedom, her fun over being a mother to our daughter. And that choice, ultimately, cost her everything that truly mattered. It was a heavy truth to carry, but at least I got to carry it with Lily by my side. I get to be there for every scraped knee, every new word, every small victory. And that, more than anything, made it all worth it. What would you have done in my situation?